black folks don't embrace what folks are trying to do and fend that off, that upsets me, because I am somebody that's trying to set a path for future folks on the come up for my community to be in this position one day.
Davis is now facing a lawsuit in Miami from his ex, accusing him of battery, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and emotional distress. I mean, this does not look good, and he's had previous with his partner. Hands on women, I just can't agree with. It's just terrible, and it's so bad for boxing when a fighter is being accused of putting. I mean, that's my personal opinion on.
As reported, Jake Paul's return could shift to December, with the November 14th Netflix exhibition in jeopardy due to the latest allegations against Gervonta Davis. Sources tell Ring Magazine that December 12th and the 19th are possibilities, right? And here are the potential opponents: Nate Diaz or Francis Ngannou.
Stephen A. Smith has sharply criticized Gervonta Davis, declaring that the boxer has sabotaged his own career through reckless behavior and bad decisions outside the ring. Smith stressed that talent alone isn't enough. A true champion also needs discipline, self-control, and respect for the sport. With Davis's future now in limbo, Jake Paul is reportedly preparing to face a new opponent in his place. According to insiders, Paul's next matchup will likely be against a fighter closer to his weight class, style, and market profile, ensuring the event stays on track despite the controversy surrounding Tank Davis.
Paul,
I hate it, and Jake Paul's starting to piss me off. Mike Tyson is 57 years old, man. Jake Paul been training with professional boxing trainers for years. He takes the sport very seriously.
Thank you. So let me ask you, that's the question I have, because great kid, great businessman, by the way, amazing, and I know how he does all this, the character and the persona. We keep saying that he doesn't want to be a boxer. He's not a boxer, but then
Jake Paul is a boxer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
Exactly. He's a boxer.
He can fight. He can fight. I respect it. So go in there against fighters. You should be climbing the ladder towards those other fighters and taking the sport seriously to the point where you're fighting actual boxers. Now he decides to fight a fighter, a real fighter, which is Tyson. But Tyson is 30 years older. Stop this nonsense of going against dudes that either ain't boxing or is 25 years removed from the sport.
Inside the Ring Show has released an official update on X, formerly Twitter, reporting that Gervonta Davis is expected to be withdrawn from his scheduled November 14th Netflix exhibition bout against Jake Paul. According to The Ring's Mike Coppinger, the event will likely be pushed to December as a new opponent is being lined up. Potential new dates under discussion include December 12th and December 19th. Sources reveal that Andre Ward has been contacted regarding his availability, while Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou are also being considered as possible replacements. This announcement has sparked massive speculation among fans about who will step in as Jake Paul's next rival. On the Wade podcast, analysts discussed how Jake Paul's team is placing a strong emphasis on financial control and public perception in light of the controversy. They believe that the lawsuit against Gervonta Davis could seriously damage pay-per-view sales, as many fans may hesitate to support a fighter facing such serious allegations. The analyst noted that Paul's camp values reputation just as much as revenue, and this scandal threatens both. The fight was originally expected to generate mainstream buzz through Netflix's global reach, but the legal turmoil surrounding Davis has completely shifted the narrative. While boxing often thrives on drama, the analyst warned that legal controversies like this one tend to drive audiences away instead of drawing them in.
Takes these fights very, very seriously. And I just thought, okay, this is gonna get a little more interesting than I previously thought. I thought it would be a bit of a mismatch, a bit of a, boxing experience to Gervonta Davis, Jake bringing the size and power, and we're gonna get one of these stalemates where no one wants to take a real risk and both guys are gonna get paid. Turns out no guy may get paid, or Gervonta Davis might be kicked off the card because we have a new, not champion, a new domestic violence abuse allegation against Gervonta Davis. There's been a lot of allegations against Tank, and some of those have been dropped, others have not really been pursued, and you don't really know what's what behind the scenes with people, but when things like this happen over and over, I think this is his fourth or maybe fifth allegation of domestic abuse, you kind of start to have to look at the person that's being accused of such and go, why do you keep ending up in these situations? And the way it's described, we've even seen Tank do some of the things already on camera. But let's get into this thing, and then we'll just go right into the report from Chris Mannix here. Shout out Mannix. Obviously, you guys know him as a commentator with DAZN, covers boxing. covers basketball as well for SI. Chris Mannix on Twitter says, Netflix and reps for Jake Paul have been exploring potential replacements for Gervonta Davis. Sources familiar with the situation told SI Now. Paul Davis, scheduled for November 14th, is in limbo after new allegations of domestic violence against Gervonta Davis. I was in the car. I didn't know if this was real, but I had seen a report, and this came out, I think on October, it came out a couple days ago, but it was from October 27th, and there was a civil suit over domestic allegations just 2 weeks ahead of this fight. This is from Andreas Hale, our guy over at ESPN.com. He essentially wrote the article on it and went into details. So let's take a read. Gervonta Tank Davis has once again found himself in legal trouble just 2 weeks before his exhibition fight. And yes, it was going to be an exhibition. I know it was billed as a exhibition with, a winner and loser, but let's be honest about it. Two guys, massively different weights, massively different experience. It was going to be an exhibition. On November 14th, a new civil lawsuit filed in Miami-Dade County has put the WBA lightweight champion in hot water over.
Mike Coher, senior insider for Ring Magazine and co-host of the Inside Ring Show, posted on X, as first noted by Chris Mannix, that Jake Paul's return could be pushed to December, with the November 14th Netflix exhibition now in serious doubt due to the new allegations against Gervonta Davis. According to sources quoted by Ring Magazine, December 12th and December 19th are the main dates under consideration. Mannix also reported that Ryan Garcia and Terrence Crawford have both been contacted as potential opponents. Coher's update has added further weight to widespread reports suggesting that major changes to Jake Paul's upcoming bout are imminent. Meanwhile, Carl Froch didn't hold back when sharing his thoughts on the uncertainty surrounding Jake Paul's next move. Froch dismissed the original Davis fight as a circus act, claiming it was driven more by showmanship than true sporting merit. He argued that Jake Paul never should have agreed to fight Gervonta Davis in the first place, as the matchup offered little competitive value. Now that Davis is entangled in legal troubles, Froch believes it's time for Jake Paul to move forward and secure a proper replacement. He speculated that Paul's team is already lining up backup options and emphasized that the event can still succeed if they find a credible opponent. Froch also criticized the modern trend in boxing, where spectacle often overshadows sporting integrity, warning that this entire situation is a prime example of how that strategy can backfire.
Proven guilty, they say, right? Regardless of how many times he's been accused of this type of stuff, allegedly or not, it's still innocent until proven guilty. Now, if I have a contract with you, this doesn't involve you. I understand you got a brand and public relations, all this type of stuff, but technically, this doesn't involve you. So you pulled my $200 Jake Paul contract. What if I'm innocent over here? You know who I'm coming after? I'm coming after you. I want my fucking money, or I want some compensation. But these big companies, they be having stipulations and little clauses in their contracts that give them the ability to cancel contracts for all different types of. I used to have those in our.
Oscar De La Hoya has publicly addressed the rumors suggesting that Ryan Garcia might step in to replace Gervonta Davis in the upcoming fight against Jake Paul. De La Hoya firmly denied any such discussions, stating that no talks have taken place, and if there were legitimate negotiations, he would be the one to announce them directly. He clarified that Ryan Garcia is currently focused on his own career plans, and fans shouldn't expect any last-minute crossover fight with Jake Paul. De La Hoya's remarks effectively shut down the speculation, reminding the boxing community that not every rumor deserves attention. Despite the ongoing buzz, he made it clear that, as of now, there are no active discussions or agreements between Ryan Garcia's camp and Jake Paul's team.
So I wake up to calls from reporters asking me about Jake Paul and Ryan Garcia. Let me just tell you why this fight is not going to happen. Ryan Garcia fights for DAZN, and Jake Paul fights on Netflix. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. Golden Boy has a contract with DAZN. Ryan Garcia has a contract with Golden Boy. And that's just the way it is. I mean, this is business. Ryan Garcia's probably going to go on a rant saying, oh, you're keeping me from making money and this and that and fighting. No, you have to go by the law, by the rules. You have a contract with DAZN. You have a contract with Golden Boy. It just doesn't happen that way. So anyway, until next time, we'll see you Saturday for Virgil Ortiz. But again, Ryan Garcia's next fight will be announced.
Commentators have pointed out that this isn't the first time Gervonta Davis has found himself surrounded by controversy. Earlier this year, he was accused of mistreatment by the mother of his children, a case that was eventually dismissed, but not before causing significant damage to his public image. Now, with a new lawsuit filed by another ex-girlfriend, many believe Davis urgently needs to confront and correct his behavior. Analysts argue that fame and success mean nothing if a fighter can't control their actions outside the ring. The repeated allegations have sparked growing doubts about Davis's discipline and professionalism, threatening to overshadow his accomplishments in boxing. Some experts even suggest that his team should step in to help him regain focus and preserve his legacy before his personal troubles completely unravel his career.
Never happened. The Paul camps still thought Tank is a big enough name regardless of his previous result to go ahead with this bout. But just as they were going to announce this fight initially, DV allegations dropped. Tank was arrested and it was once again put in doubt. Then the charges were dropped. A week later, they announced the event. So that kind of brings us to today. This event hasn't been smooth sailing so far, and it was almost destined that there would end up being a few more bumps in the road before we actually saw the two facing off. And about as big of a bump as you could really get has now hit the promotion. A civil suit has been filed against Tank, in which his ex-girlfriend accuses him of aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. While it was also reported by ESPN that a report has been filed additionally with the Miami Gardens Police Department last Tuesday. However, as I'm recording this, there's yet to be any criminal charges. Now, these alleged incidents happened last month, which was after the announcement of the fight. You would think if you're Tank on the verge of the biggest payday he's ever gotten, he would be doing anything to stay out of trouble, yet he continues to find himself in negative situations again and again. But in saying all of this, everything at the moment is very much alleged, and I'm not really here to talk about the validity of these claims. What I am here to talk about though is the impact this might have on the boxing event in a couple weeks time. Now, Tank vs Paul, love or hate the idea of it, was definitely one of the most viewed fights of the year. Although there are rumors of there being poor ticket sales, the at-home audience...
Courtney Rosel's lawsuit against Gervonta Davis, filed in Miami-Dade County, presents a deeply troubling account of alleged abuse. The complaint accuses Davis of assaulting her at her workplace and includes charges of battery, false imprisonment, and emotional distress. The timing of the lawsuit, coming just weeks before Davis's scheduled fight with Jake Paul, has sparked widespread discussion in the boxing community. Some analysts question why the filing came so close to the event, speculating that it might have been strategically timed to disrupt what could have been Davis's biggest payday and spotlight moment. Others, however, defend the timing, noting that victims often hesitate to come forward due to fear, trauma, or external pressure. Commentators have even drawn comparisons to figures like Mike Tyson, suggesting that the same aggression that fuels dominance inside the ring can sometimes spill over destructively outside it. Regardless of the motive or timing, the lawsuit has undeniably cast a dark cloud over what was intended to be one of the most highly anticipated boxing events of the year.
Involve the offer. If you're going to involve the laws, given a lawsuit, why not involve the law in general and file like actual charges in addition to this? So again, I'm not her. I don't understand that angle of it, because it's like we want him to be held accountable in front of the public, but there's no criminal charges, which is weird. You know, in a situation like that, at least to me, it seems like you would have criminal charges or some kind of restraining order. Now, I don't know. It's not my case to fight or defend. We have to see what comes. I have mixed feelings about these situations because on one angle, we do see boxers throughout history who have been involved with like temper issues or anger management issues and DV in domestic situations. We've seen that. And I'm talking about all types of fighters, right? Even the great Mike Tyson, I don't believe the story, but again, I don't want to get too distracted on my opinion, but he did prison time for allegedly to a female, right? So on one angle, we've heard that. But then on the other angle, you got people who sue left and right, and sometimes even females, right? Where people are looking to turn a pretty penny. And what happens is sometimes in these celebrity situations, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I got to see more. You know, it has to go to trial or whatever, see what evidence comes out. Again, this is not really for me to judge. I'm not the judge, the jury. I'm not a cop. So
Michael Bisping voiced his frustration at the idea of Jake Paul potentially facing Francis Ngannou as a replacement opponent, calling the matchup completely unrealistic. The former UFC champion argued that the fight would be dangerously one-sided, given Ngannou's enormous power and size advantage. Bisping acknowledged Jake Paul's steady improvement as a boxer, but stressed that he is nowhere near equipped to take on someone as physically dominant as Ngannou, who could easily overpower him. Instead, Bisping proposed Nate Diaz as a more fitting and entertaining option, highlighting that Diaz offers both star power and a more even playing field, ensuring the bout remains competitive rather than a mismatch. His comments echoed the sentiment of many fans, who believe Jake Paul's fights should be exciting and marketable, but still make sense from a sporting perspective.
Hold the plug on that fight. It says, here's a tweet I'm reading from Mike Coppinger. As reported, Jake Paul's return could shift to December with the November 14th Netflix exhibition in jeopardy due to the latest allegations against Gervonta Davis. Sources tell Ring Magazine that December 12th and the 19th are possibilities, right? And here are the potential opponents: Nate Diaz or Francis Ngannou. Now listen, we know that Jake Paul has been out there and he's typically taking on people that are way older than him, like Mike Tyson, who's 58, Anderson Silva, who was way past his prime, people like Nate Diaz, who were way smaller. Gervonta.
A panel of boxing analysts recently discussed whether the lawsuit against Gervonta Davis is a legitimate case or a strategically timed move to disrupt his career. The panel stressed the need for solid evidence, noting that Courtney Roselle's claims must be supported by concrete proof for the case to hold credibility. The timing of the lawsuit coming just as Davis was set to earn his biggest payday yet, his raised eyebrows across the boxing world. Some experts warned against jumping to conclusions before all the facts are confirmed, while others pointed out that although false allegations do occur, it's equally wrong to dismiss a potential victim's claims prematurely. In the end, the analysts agreed that both sides deserve a fair and thorough examination. However, they also acknowledged that, regardless of the outcome, the situation has further complicated the public's perception of Gervonta Davis and cast uncertainty over his standing in the sport.
Or she got trash-ass lawyers, and he did all of this shit, and they got all the evidence in the world. They're like, yeah, we just gonna ask him $50K. We ain't gonna ask for nothing more than that. Something gotta give, bro. Okay? Something gotta give, fam. So, there's that part of it. And for the Tank Davis side, listen, dog. Whether you did it or not, if that's all it takes to make this go away, so you can go on with your life and go on with your career, I'd consider doing it from a business perspective, right? And just saying, look, man, you asked for how much, man? Here go 100. Shut up, issue an apology. You know what I'm saying? Say that I never did that shit. Say it was a misunderstanding, and you can have 100K here. Shit. That's the business side to make this shit go away and keep it moving. But the man in me, right? The pride is the wrong word. The integrity in me says, if you didn't do this shit, fight tooth and nail, and don't give a shit, right? So there's that, right? It's just, again, not saying guilty or innocent. Y'all know when shit like this happen, I like to wait on all the facts to come out. But damn, this shit seeming very, very suspect, bro. Very weird. But now let's get to the potential opponent. So nothing from MVP has came out to say this fight has been canceled. As a matter of fact, they were still promoting the shit yesterday on their socials or whatever. Nothing from Tank's side that said this shit is canceled. Nothing from Netflix saying this is canceled. So for all intents and purposes, these are rumors started by Chris Mannix. So
Jake Paul's team has officially announced that they are conducting an internal review into the allegations against Gervonta Davis, signaling that they are taking the issue seriously and prioritizing both legal protection and brand reputation. According to reports, Paul's representatives are in active discussions with their legal and promotional partners to determine the best path forward. Depending on the outcome of their findings, the team may choose to delay the event, reschedule it for December, or replace Davis entirely. Their statement reflects Jake Paul's growth from a social media entertainer into a responsible boxing promoter, aware of how off-ring controversies can impact both credibility and business. With Netflix heavily invested and millions of dollars at stake, Paul's team appears to be moving cautiously to safeguard the integrity of the event and protect their star's public image.
And from the even contractual side, you got to look at it from Gervonta Tank Davis. You know, it's innocent until proven guilty, they say, right? Regardless of how many times he's been accused of this type of stuff, allegedly or not, it's still innocent until proven guilty. Now, if I have a contract with you, this doesn't involve you. You know, I understand you got a brand and public relations, all this type of stuff, but technically, this doesn't involve you. So you pulled my $200 Jake Paul contract. What if I'm innocent over here? You know who I'm coming after? I'm coming after you. I want my fucking money, or I want some compensation. But these big companies, they be having stipulations and little clauses in their contracts that give them the ability to...
That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more boxing updates, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.